So this video is going to be the assembly of the Mark IV Granberg chainsaw mill. I've got a 60-inch bar, and so this is going to be putting the pieces together. The instructions are pretty good, I think. We'll find out. The tools that I think I'll need. Down here are some snips, there's some zip ties, that's a carpet cutter, just any razor blade or just to open up the packaging here. They recommend certain torque on the nuts, so I've got a socket set and right here is my torque wrench, so I'll just do it right. So one of the confusing things is because of my particular saw, it's a pretty big bar. This package seems to be everything you need for sort of the shorter bars. The extra parts out here, which are not really described in this particular assembly manual, are for, I imagine, the longer bar. As I scan through this particular package, it seems to be everything that is illustrated in this manual and in the instructions for assembly. Everything that's in this package right here. I'll see as we go along how these other parts may attach. Here are the rails and what they call the handle for the long mill that I have. And I'll have to say that one of the confusing things that they have here is they have two separate pieces that they identify as the handle. They have a handle here, item 21, and then they have a handle, where is it? Item 25. They also identify as a handle. If we look at the diagram, 21 is the tubular bar that is down here. That's called a handle. And then also 25 is identified as a handle, which to me is a handle. So, a little confusing. It's worth just going through the instructions, reading them carefully, looking over everything. At least that's what I'm doing before I even open up any of the packaging. We'll find out along the way whether I've got all the nuts and bolts. I will say that this package had a little bit of damage to the plastic wrap that went over and sealed all these parts in here. There's a curved piece down here that is a chainsaw guard that has punctured through the plastic. I don't believe any parts fell out, but it's just a a heads up to Granberg, I guess, that in the packaging things get bounced around and ripped and parts could be lost. Alright, so let's start with the assembly. I will first just take this package apart and see what's in it. Okay, so I've gone through all the nuts, bolts, and other parts that were in the small package, and I've looked at the inventory list and the image. Everything seems to have made the trip. There were no missing parts. In fact, there was one extra bolt. So we're now in a place where we can start with the assembly. Alright, so we start with this piece, and we're going to attach this with locking washers up first. Okay, washers go first. Here, and it says just to put them in loosely, so that's all I'm going to do. It shows the Allen wrench, but I'm just going to tighten them down finger tight. Now, they do not specify whether these things are to be oriented the same way or as a mirror image to each other. So, oh, you know what? They don't go on that. They go onto, says repeat with the other bracket. Make sure slot and handle boss faces out as shown. Okay, so they are clear. So, do this. And that completes the assembly. They have a little picture up here, and that completes the first assembly here. Next assembly item is this handle to this piece with this. Okay, so we're going to use 2 of the carriage bolts with 23 with lock washers. As shown like this. And nuts. And the handle. Okay. So, and these, the way I have this shown is that we use one of the, like that, and a regular nut on this one. And I will need to socket that down. Okay, that's in place. This is like that. I'm just going to do it loose for now. I will work with the Torx later. Alright, so now they want me to get out the rails, and that means I'm going to need some more space and probably adjust the video. So let me do that right now. Okay, the rails are now in place. I put the various pieces sort of where I think I'll need them. This will be, I've oriented these things so that they fit this particular diagram right here in terms of their orientation, with this being the end of the bar, this being the power head side. And so now they want this handle assembly attached to these thickness rails. And it will go something like that. Square to make sure it's squared up. We will slide some carriage bolts down. Drop them on. Maybe. Alright. Loosen this up. There we go. And they want a flat washer on this end and one of these bolts. And a lock washer, they say, on this end. Do I have another lock washer? I'm not seeing it right off. Alright, I'm going to put this on right now. Alright. Alright. Not quite square there. It's going to be okay. Alright. That seems to take care of the assembly of this piece. Next, we attach the end bracket assemblies to the thickness rails. These are the end bracket assemblies, and they face with these notches outward. Okay, so I see right off that this is not right. So this one needs to come over here. Oh, wait, no, I do have it right. All right. So these come on like that, and we're using 4 carriage bolts, flat washers, and the hex nuts. So Okay. I'm editing out the parts that make me look stupid. The next part of the assembly now is to attach the U-bolts and the other companion part to this bracket. The U-bolt slides through the bracket, attaches to this part like this, and then from the inside slides through. 2 flat washers and these connector bolts, which are the long bolts. And we do the same for the other side. And that completes that part. Okay. And these parts they identify as the thrust end as opposed to these parts, which are the nose end. And we're going to use these long bolts to go through. My fault. Flat washers first. And they have a bolt welded onto the matching piece, mating piece. There it is. We'll just tighten them down a little bit. And the bolts emerging. And bolts emerging. Alright, that takes care of this. Might as well do the same for this one. In this case we have this nose piece to also consider, 2 bolts, 2 flat washers, Okay, so what they're indicating here is that the graduation is to be up, and you insert the arc of the nose so it is also up, and then put on the mating piece. Tight on that. Okay. So that takes care of these 2 pieces. Now, next is the attachment of these pieces to the frame itself. And that looks simple enough. Get some of these parts out of the way. Slide the frame down. This is the nose piece. Just like that. Okay, no surprises. The other side is the same way, with the flaring ends pointing towards your power head. So what am I doing? I'm doing it backwards. Alright. Okay. A few little details. Put the grip on. Okay, done. Okay, they are indicating, well, almost that it's assembled, but we've got these little parts to put in. Caps for these thickness risers, for lack of a better term. And then end caps for the tubular bar. Okay. And they are indicating that this is now complete. This, however, is not square, so I'll just do some squaring up a little bit. Well, yeah. In fact, I'll hold off on that. The next thing they want to do is have me attach the power head with the bar. So, let me get that into place, because this is a beast. Okay, a couple things. Sorry the whole assembly doesn't show up in the video frame, but it's a big saw. I had to remove the falling spike from the saw because it gets in the way. The other thing I learned is that you just can't slide the frame onto this particular bar because the spacing between the bolts on these grippers is less than the width of the bar. Okay? So in my case, what I have to do is detach those little pincher pieces, whatever they're called, and put them in place this way, and then set the frame down on top of them. So, like this. This is a big heavy beast. And it looks like I'm going to need to loosen up how do I do that? Let's see, how does this work? Alright, let me pause on this, and I'm just going to assemble it and then tell you what I did. Okay, here's what I have so far. Now, I want to draw your attention to this end. Because I have such a long bar, I bought the helper handle. That makes this piece unnecessary. And the helper handle comes in its own box with its own set of parts, and I believe I've got it correctly installed here, though it's not tightened down yet, so it's kind of loose. Chain will come around this assembly here. So I've had to move this piece back. I will reposition the handle so it's more convenient. I've got this part of the frame with about about an inch between it and the power head. I may snug that up more. What's still not clear to me at this point is why Granberg also delivered this pair of identical pieces. Okay, it appears to me to be nothing but this section, but there's no other place that I see for these to fit. And there's also this set of rail brackets. Not quite sure yet what those are for. There's nothing about them in the instructions. The instructions do not speak to this sort of a long bar assembly. So they should have some additional information that they provide when you're buying one of the big packages. Okay, so here I believe is the final assembly of my chainsaw mill with the 60-inch bar. The parts that I was uncertain of that seemed like extra were this spacer and this part that clamps onto the bar. Same pair down here. I'm not quite sure whether I have them reversed or how I will use them. Maybe I'll just leave them the way they are. I'm not sure yet. I was thinking maybe I would buy some plexiglass and put some plexiglass protection over here. Don't know that that's necessary. I've seen that on other mills. And then this part, these are the slabbing rails. So these are the rails, it turns out, that you screw into the ends of the log to support the 2x4s, or perhaps some people use aluminum ladders. You know, for me, these are kind of a joke when I'm looking at sawing logs this size. You know, that's not really gonna do it, I don't think. So I don't know that I'll ever even open that up, but here it is in its final form. I may need to do some adjustments. I'm using a Husky 3120 XP power head, and I'll just go right on down. So that's basically it.
I'll make a separate video for, I might make a separate video for how I put on that helper handle. I also have a oiler attachment that goes on this end for this this end of the chainsaw, an additional oiler. I'll make a video probably for that installation. I might make a separate video for putting the chain on this chainsaw, on this mill. So for now though, this is how I believe the assembly is to be done, and I hope it's been helpful for somebody out there.